All right. Thank you guys for joining me for this gentle and restorative practice. We are going to start off with some gentle uh, movement with pranayama, and we'll do that from standing, and then we're going to start to restore. So, you guys need to be aware that I am going to be leading a yoga retreat in Costa Rica, April 23rd through the 28th. So that's Friday through next Wednesday. So far, so good as far as us getting to go there. Um, but because I'm going to be leading that yoga retreat in another country, I will have access to a computer to send off videos, but I will not be able to do live stream. So all through those dates, I will be sending out videos in lieu of the live stream. So next Wednesday, you'll get those practices. So for today's practice, what I want you to be aware of is the fact that sometimes we can get over busy, over scheduled, overworked, overplayed, and life can just be too much. We can just overdo it. And I'm leading up to this yoga retreat in Costa Rica that I'll be leaving out for on Friday. And so, in order to get more videos recorded, a couple days ago, I decided that even though people were coming in and out of my house doing repairs, as soon as they left that afternoon, I just started recording. And I recorded 4 or 5 classes in a row just to kind of, set to the side in the library to be able to send them out. And I overdid it. I overdid it physically in my body. I felt good at the time that I was on the mat physically practicing, but by the evening, I could barely walk. I couldn't tell at the time if it was an inner quad or an inner hamstring. It was one of those muscles. And I mean, even just to stand up and put pressure on my foot to walk, my body would just scream at me. And I was afraid that I had injured myself. And only been, I've never had a major injury with yoga. I've only had one minor injury with yoga, and that was due to a physical adjustment that a teacher gave me. That was just too rough. But otherwise, I've never been injured. And so I was really concerned and was thinking, oh my goodness, I've got 3 classes tomorrow and I have 4 classes on Wednesday and I got to lead this yoga retreat. I can't be injured right now. And so when Rob got home, he was very sweet. He was like, get out your massage table. Let me, help you out. So he was giving me this lovely massage. And I told him to be super gentle. I'm like, no deep pressure because I was scared. Like, those muscles were actually bulging a little bit. And so the next day I got up and I went and did a yoga practice, and I was really slow moving. And yesterday I ended up being able to get some rest because we had people coming in and out of the home. I was able to send off a recording in lieu of a live stream. And I just decided at one point, I'm just going to lay in bed for 45 minutes and just be completely still, like my own Shavasana. And it was exactly what I needed. I gave myself some Reiki while I was there. And yes, the muscles are still sore, but I'm not injured, thank goodness. I may have created a little tear in the muscles, which is creating the soreness, but I'm better. But my point in sharing all this with you is sometimes we don't realize when we're overdoing something until it's too late. And now that we've been through this year of COVID and slowing down and quarantining, and life is starting to ramp up again, people are getting vaccinated, things are opening up more, people are feeling a little safer about congregating. We have to be careful that we're not going right back to the norm of what it was beforehand. Because when we look back at what the norm was beforehand, we were already overscheduled, overworked, overdoing. And I think this past year was a good life lesson for us to have those moments of slowing down, to take time to rest, and to make sure that we're prioritizing what's most important and maintaining as much optimal health as possible. So I want you to consider even thinking about getting ready for when you're leaving town, right? You may have someone coming in to dog sit or house sit. And even if you don't have someone coming into your home, what we typically do just to prepare to leave is we want to have the whole house clean so that we're coming home to a clean house. We have to get all the trash out. We have to make sure that things are in order, that the bills are paid, up to this point. Maybe stopping our mail or getting someone to collect our mail. Then we have to worry about, packing and having all the things that we have to have in order to even get away. And it can be overwhelming. So today's practice is going to be more restorative because, quite honestly, I need the restoration and I'm hoping you do too. So I would suggest all the goodies, blanket, bolster, if not a pillow, and a couple blocks for sure. And we're going to actually start standing and breathing. So let's go ahead and come to a standing position. And what we're going to do is we're going to separate the feet a little bit wider than hip distance. The knees are going to splay open as the feet flare open. And the palms are going to be open about waist level. And we'll do this with the eyes open together, and then we'll close the eyes. So as we inhale, we're straightening the legs and lifting the hands higher up towards the hearts. And then as we exhale, we flip the palms, we bend the knees, and breathe it down. Couple more with eyes open. Inhale, palms open and rise. Exhale, palms flip as you ground down. Feel free to use diaphragmatic breaths or the Ujjayi breath. That's the one I'm choosing. Now we'll continue with eyes closed. I used to have a guy, Sam, who led Tai Chi and Qigong practices at the studio. And I learned this from him. But it's a moving, breathing meditation. Let's do 2 more. Inhale, straighten the legs. Now, for what we're going to do next, I feel like my feet are a little narrow. So I'm going to make them a little bit wider. And then once we start to have this interplay of movement, then you can be the judge of what you need, how much space in your body. We'll bend the knees. And we're going to take the left arm up and the right arm to the thigh and take a side bend. And then we'll inhale through to center. And we'll exhale, flow to the other side. And we're going to keep this going. Inhale, center. Exhale, over to 1. Inhale, center. And exhale to the other. 1 more to each side. And then inhale, you can straighten your legs this time. And we're going to turn the feet to face forward and have them side by side. We're going to do a breath flow with chair pose. So as you inhale, lift the arms up, bend the knees, but back your hips up. And as you exhale, let's breathe out through the mouth. Inhale up. Exhale down. Continue. Just 1 more. Inhale up to the top, bring your hands to prayer position. Nestle your thumbs into that little groove at the top of the breastbone and close your eyes. Set your intention for your practice today. Maybe it's like me, you need some restoration, you need some relief physically in your body, Or maybe you just need to de-stress. And then I want you to consider dedicating the positive energy that you cultivate in this practice to someone who may be in need. Feel free to bring it home to yourself and then relax the arms. All right, we'll set up for our first restorative posture. And it's going to be the queen pose, or what I like to call the royal pose. And we're going to have one block on its tall height, one block on its middle height. We're going to create the slide with the bolster. And I would suggest maybe the blanket folded up or rolled up to go under the knees. And then we'll just slowly lean back. And the arms can drape down to the ground. And what I want you to do is just allow your drishti to be set at your mind's eye, the midpoint of your brow. Drinking in the breath and allowing the breath to slow and calm the mind and the heart. If you've been feeling any type of anxious energy, if you've been feeling that overwhelm, then dedicate this practice to you. Remembering that it's okay if we don't get everything done. It's okay if we need to take time for ourselves. And it gives the body an opportunity to not only rest, but heal. And then I want you to affirm mentally within, energetic movements or unmoving peace. The choice is mine alone. Energetic movements or unmoving peace. The choice is mine alone. controlling or simply observing the breath. On your next inhalation, slide your left foot back and eventually towards the inner part of the right leg. And hopefully that blanket underneath the knees can also be some protective padding underneath the left knee and thigh, so you stay propped up. Just gaining a little access into the left hip. I always suggest controlling the breath for several rounds after you shape shift your body. And then you can minimize that control if or when you no longer need it. Basically, when the mind is not as ramped up as it may have been earlier. As you inhale, lift the left knee back up, slide that leg forward, and then we'll inhale, slide the right foot back, and then exhale, rotate open from your hip. It's like a reclined tree or half butterfly. Your mind wants to take you elsewhere. Just remind yourself there's nowhere else to be and nothing else to do other than to be here now. Affirming energetic movement or unmoving peace. The choice is mine alone. On your next in-breath, we'll float the right knee up and we'll slide the left foot back. Push down into your palms and just rise on up. When you rise up, you're going to take your left leg forward and your right knee will open to the side. We'll do Janu Shirshasana really quick. Inhale, lift the arms up overhead, and then exhale, tip forward. Try to maintain a neutral back as you descend. Find the edge of flexibility where it is today. You know, it's a little colder here in Tennessee. We had a cold front come through, and you may even notice the difference in your home. So don't strive or do too much if you're feeling cooler in your home, right? We can get injured if the muscles are too cold and we try to do too much. Just like if we get too heated, we could also take it too far. So stay mindful. And then inhale, let's come up and we'll swap sides. So we'll lift the right knee, extend that leg, we'll bend the left knee and then open up from that hip. Inhale, flex the right foot and extend the arms overhead. Exhale, we're going to hinge forward. Again, with a neutral back. It's colder in my home, so I'm not trying to overly do the stretch today. And as I mentioned, I overdid it the other day, teaching or recording too many classes. It snuck up on me. But also be aware when you do overdo it and it creates soreness in your body, yes, you need to rest, but you also need to keep moving. So you need to mix it up because the movement coming back in can actually help to reduce the soreness. And then the stillness, of course, can help it to heal if there are perhaps any minor tears in the muscle. So on your next inhalation, let's slowly come up. And since we've been working with the lower body a little bit through that sequence, we're now going to cater to that. And we're going to restore that area. So you can remove the blocks. We're going to use the blanket to swaddle the legs. This is actually one of my favorites. So once your legs stack up onto the bolster, wrap the blanket not only on top, but you're going to tuck it underneath. Kind of mummifying the legs a little bit. Now you can automatically roll back, but I like doing this. And if you want to follow along, you can. I like holding the bolster so that when I'm rolling down and scooping in the belly, I can bring the bolster with me. And then I release down to the base of the skull. Check in with your head and your neck. You may need another prop, a pillow, or an additional blanket to work like a pillow. For this pose, I recommend hands resting on the stomach. Now that you've entered the pose, create some deep diaphragmatic breaths. Feeling the belly balloon upward on your inhale. Softening back downward on the exhale. Energetic movement or unmoving peace. The choice is mine alone. So even if you feel like you're more sedentary these days, maybe not getting out or moving as much, you may be getting trapped in the head. You may be filling up your headspace with a lot of news, and that can create stress. So let this be a time where you're slowing down and becoming still, but you're actually trying to distill the mind. Gaining some stress relief. Do a mental x-ray of your body to make sure you're not holding unnecessary tension, even in your sensory organs or your jaw. Follow your breath 7 more rounds. into those 7. Unruffle the legs from the blanket. And you're going to draw the knees in towards your belly and chest in Apanasana, the wind release pose. From the wind release pose, stack your knees, or your hands rather, on top of your knees. Straighten your arms. And then you're just going to start to circle the knees around and around. Just go one direction at first. And then move the opposite way. Separate your knees, hugging them in towards your side body, into the stirrup or tree frog pose. Let's take 3 cleansing breaths. Breathe in through your nose, out audibly through your mouth. 2 more. Final one. Take your knees over to your left side. And then extend your right arm out shoulder height, turning your gaze towards the right arm. And the eyes can be open or closed. Inhale, head and knees to center. Exhale, let the knees roll to the right. Extend your left arm and then turn your head that direction. Now roll your head to center. Bring your left arm over to your right side. And then we'll slowly lift our way up. When you come up, we'll move the blanket over. We're going to turn the bolster sideways across the mat. And we're going to do a modified upward facing dog. And we're going to be, you know how up dog, the hips are elevated off the floor? We're going to rest them into the bolster right up underneath us. So let's go ahead and come forward. So the rim of the pelvis, the hips, the pubic bones resting on the bolster. The legs are splayed behind us. The hands are and arms are propping the back up, the heart up, the head up. Three more breaths. Remember, any back bend, active or passive, is good for promoting better posture, helps to uplift our mood. When you're ready, gently buckle the arms to lower halfway towards the floor. And then you can press up to table. We're gonna come back to the bolster, but we're gonna slide it away for just a moment so that we can come back to a prone position. But instead of doing sphinx with the elbows lined up underneath the shoulders, we're gonna travel the elbows forward so the belly starts to flatten down to the mat. And then we'll prop the head in prayer hands. This is one of the yin versions of Sphinx that I like to add in on occasion because it's much more gentle. Now you can choose whether or not you want your legs and feet active or passive. If you're a prayerful person, this is a nice pose to have some quiet time. Feel free to add in whatever prayer you want, if that is part of your practice. If you don't use yoga as a sadhana, a spiritual practice, you can just be here and reflect or just move into that space between thoughts or breaths. Now we'll come down to the brow with your hands sliding up underneath the shoulders. Press up again to all fours. And I think we've done this before where we only used a bolster, but I'm thinking today we may add blocks into. So have your blocks out there in front for a moment. What we're going to try to align ourselves into is a restorative form of pigeon. So the restorative form of pigeon, if you step the left foot over and then slide the foot over in front of the bolster, and then make sure that you're squaring the hips. This makes it where it's not quite as deep in the pelvic floor. And sometimes we just fold all the way down, right? But I'm thinking today, let's try this. I didn't even experiment before we started. Let's just test it out here. I'm thinking blocks might be better. Kind of like the blocks today, but I'm also extremely sore in my inner thighs. So if you don't need to cater to any soreness, if you don't need to cater to your back or whatever experience you're having in your body, then you can move the blocks out of the way and just send down to the floor. But once you get settled, I suggest closing the eyes, moving inward again. The breath will show you the way. This also takes some of the pressure and a little less flexion in the front knee. If you find that using props is a better approach to pigeon, then please know anytime we do this pose in class, you can always create the same positioning, the same support system. On your next inhale, let's go ahead and stack back up. And you can lean to that left hip if you need to come out. Doesn't have to be so formal. And then we'll step the right foot over. As we start to shift forward, we'll slide the right foot. We'll square off the hips so that we're actually on top of, or the left thigh, I should say, and hip is on top of the bolster. And then the blocks can remain if you want to use those. You may need more or less support on this side. Just a few more breaths. On your next inhalation, let's slowly start to lift. You can lean on that right hip to come out. Keep that set up for now, or just slide it closer together. We're going to do another more active pose before Shavasana. So if you sit comfortably in a cross-legged seat, lift up energetically through the heart, and then walk your arms out in front of you as you fold. Magnetize your breath while here. Inhale, slowly rising. Swapping the positioning of the feet. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, take it forward and out. Hold and breathe. And then inhale, slowly coming up. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple options for Shavasana. I want you to think about where you're at, where your body's at, what your preference may be. So one idea is to lift the bolster up, slide the blocks below them like so, and then you can take the legs over the bolster and lie down. Your other option could be keeping your blocks there to go under your knees, bolster underneath the spine. And then, of course, you could utilize your blanket for warmth. Hands can be on or off the body. But I do suggest closing and shielding the eyes. Always taking a few deep breaths to begin. And then letting those breaths start to fade out. I'm going to allow you some time to be contemplative. Our theme today is about the overwhelm, the overdoing. So I want Shavasana to be the undoing, the unraveling. Letting go of tension, worry, anxiety. Letting go of the idea that we have to be productive all the time. And just move more into a state of being. After all, we're called human beings, not human doings. Your task is to just breathe, just be. Begin deepening the flow of your breath. A little movement to your hands and feet. If you're flat on your back, you can hug the knees in. If you're in a back bend, I would step the feet on top of the blocks. And then we'll all roll to one side of the body. And we'll come up to take a seat. You may want to wrap up. Sitting tall and attentive, noticing if you feel better physically, mentally, emotionally, or otherwise. Hopefully, today's practice either brought you some balance or some reprieve. And joining your hands to Anjali Mudra. My soul recognizes your soul. I'm grateful you joined me for this practice today. Let's remember, whenever we're overdoing, overusing, overscheduling, or becoming overwhelmed, maybe it's time to slow down. The light in me honors and bows to that which is within you.